With Game of Thrones Season 8 being months away, and with No Winds of Winter seemingly on the horizon, there are many what-ifs to ponder. So in this new video series, we will explore all the exciting what-ifs for our favorite characters in Game of Thrones. Let's start off with, what if Sandor Clegane got himself some Valyrian steel? Sandor Clegane is one of the most interesting and complex characters in the Song of Ice and Fire. He can make us laugh, cry, and agree with his point of view. He's brutally honest and one of the moral centers of the story because he isn't afraid to speak his mind. But what if he gets a Valyrian Steel Blade, and what if he fights against the Night King and the White Walkers? With the War for Dawn approaching, Westeros needs as many great fighters armed with weapons that can actually kill the Night King, the White Walkers, and anything that is revived with the Night King's necromancy. We can all laugh at the moment when he said,
"I always wanted some Valyrian steel."
And while this did seem like a comedic insert to break the ice from these intense conversations we experience within the show, we have to remember that foreshadowing in television is much different than how we perceive and experience foreshadowings in the books. Now, I'm not saying there is no wasted lines in the show.
You want a good girl, but you need a bad pussy.
But since in fiction and non-fiction, clues and red herrings may potentially be used by a writer to present a false clue that leads us towards a false conclusion, we have to consider the use of comedy as a device to foreshadow the future within Game of Thrones. I think it's important that we look back at the moments from both the book and the show to properly evaluate Sandor Clegane's arc, his hero's journey so far, and to try to predict if he indeed may end up with the Valyrian Steel Blade. As we spoke of earlier, Sandor Clegane is one of George R. R. Martin's most interesting characters. He doesn't fit the traditional white knight archetype, and what knights actually stand for within Game of Thrones and the Song of Ice and Fire is much different as well. We gotta remember that Sandor has a deep-seated resentment against knights and the institution of knighthood because he sees them as false and he hates that they don't represent what is actually perceived of them. Here's a good example of this when Sandor Clegane explains his philosophy to the Brotherhood Without Banners. A knight's a sword with the horse. The rest, the vows and the sacred oils and the lady's favors, they are silk ribbons tied around the sword. Maybe the sword's prettier with ribbons hanging off it, but it will kill you just as dead. Well, bugger your ribbons and shove your swords up your arses. I'm the same as you. The only difference is I don't lie about what I am. So kill me, but don't call me a murderer while you stand there telling each other that your shit don't stink. You hear me? There's a big reason why Sandor Clegane feels this way, and it's mostly because Sandor has feared and hated his brother Gregor Clegane his entire life. We have to remember, Gregor burned him, likely killed his father, and maybe even killed his sister too. And Gregor becoming a knight is one of the main reasons for Sandor's contempt of them. We see the first glimpse of this when he stops Gregor Clegane from killing Loras Tyrell. There's also an interesting element throughout his arc, which is that of self-deprecation. Sandor Clegane constantly refers to himself as no more than a king's dog, and renounces any sort of title, whether that of sir or generally being referred to as a knight.
Your king's guard, Clegane. We must beat them back or they're going to take this city. Your king's city.
Fuck the king's guard. Fuck the city. Fuck the king.
This shows us that he has a moral or behavioral code that exists even beyond the Hound's actions. This is why the interactions with Arya and Sansa Stark softens the hate within Sandor Clegane, as he feels he can do something good for them with the tragedy that they've experienced. And on his journey with Arya, while he is protecting her, he opens up about why he feels this way in one of my absolute favorite scenes from the series in episode 7 of season 4 in the episode Mockingbird.
You say your brother gave you that sword. My brother gave me this. It was just like you said a while back. Pressed me to the fire like I was a nice juicy mutton chop.
But you must be asking, how is this all related to Sandor Clegane getting a Valyrian Steel Blade? Well, I believe it has to do with the fact that he has earned some respect amongst his peers and isn't being solely judged by his appearance or his former nickname, the Hound. He is carving out his own path, doing something that is honorable and in most of our minds heroic, helping the side of the living come to grips with what is actually happening in the real world. I mean, let's be honest, Sandor Clegane did see a vision in the flames when he returned to the cabin of the small folk that he robbed. I don't think this is a coincidence that someone whose kryptonite is fire saw a vision in the flames and may wield a blade that uses dragon flame and is associated with fire within the story. Of course, there's going to be a large convergence of characters within Winterfell, including Sandor Clegane, Jaime Lannister, Brienne of Tarth, Arya Stark, Jon Snow, and Samwell Tarly, who all have some association with Valyrian Steel. And not only that, Gendry Baratheon, who is a blacksmith, and Daenerys Targaryen, who has dragons, will be there as well. With Sandor being in Winterfell and having protected both Stark girls, it only seems logical that he would get one if they somehow found a way to craft him. And if the White Walkers and the Night King attack Winterfell, and Daenerys and Jon Snow, and more importantly, Sansa and Arya are being put in danger, you better believe that one of the best fighters in Westeros, Sandor Clegane, is going to get some Valyrian steel. Now, I am of the thought that Sandor will participate in the Clegane Bowl in King's Landing, which means he will fight against another form of undead zombie other than the Whites and the White Walkers. But the more I rewatch the show, the more I read the books, and the more I think about the what-ifs of Season 8, the more I believe he will get a Valyrian Steel Blade. And wouldn't it be amazing for Sandor Clegane to come full circle for someone we viewed as cold and closed early on within the story, to be open and willing to face his fears? And I mean, he is kissed by fire. But what if the Night King of Viserion landed in Winterfell? What if, in the moment, Jaime Lannister gives him Widow's Will as he recognizes that he doesn't have his sword hand and that Sandor would be better suited with a Valyrian Steel Blade? And what if Sandor Clegane gets a Valyrian Steel Blade and fights alongside Arya Stark in the War for Dawn? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and if you think there is a possibility that Sandor Clegane gets a Valyrian Steel Blade in Season 8 or in the books as well. I do really hope you enjoyed this video, and there will be more what-ifs coming up. This is going to be a permanent series on the channel. There's going to be a lot of fun videos that we're going to make. A lot of speculation has to be made. There's a lot of great characters and arcs to talk about within the Song of Ice and Fire. So if you do enjoy these style of videos, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming content on the channel. Thanks again to all of you who have supported the channel on Patreon. The patrons of the week are Morley and Andrew Burnett. I'll see you all in the next video. Hype and love.